Hello and welcome to another bodgit and leggit video. Now I know I keep banging on about checking your brakes and stuff, but this is why it's so important. As you can see, this pad is worn completely down and it's completely and utterly destroyed the disc. Now, to be fair, what's happened with this one, the caliper has seized. I don't know if you can see the discolorization here, but they would have felt this. So when you feel something grabbing, stop, check your brakes, see which one's hot, because you know after a few minutes one wheel will be quite hot, and if you do feel anything coming out, any major heat, well then just stop, let it cool down, go home, do whatever you need to do, but just don't keep driving it until this happens, because then you have to buy pads, discs, absolutely everything, where if you catch it fairly quickly you might only need to buy the caliper. So this is kind of, yeah. Now when I got this job I was only told it needed pads. Now obviously if I got it on the lift and I felt it pulling as I was driving it, I knew we had a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to leave this side for the minute. We're going to have to put a caliper on this side, new pads and discs. We're going to show you the far side. I'm going to do pads and discs on the far side. This is a 2011 Ford Mondeo. But like I said, if you just feel it pulling, stop, check it, it will save you a fortune. Now we get to kind of the normal side, if that's possible, you know what I mean. This is what it kind of should look like. So we're going to change pads, discs, that's it really, pads and discs. The first thing we're going to do is take off the carrier. You're going to need a 13 and a 15mm spanner. Put the 13mm spanner just inside the caliper. It can be a bit tight if there's a load of crap on it. 13mm spanner and just crack. We're just loosening it first. You want to loosen both of them before you take anything off. So again, put the spanner on it and then crack it. Now we can actually take it off because we've already loosened the bottom one. Sometimes this top bolt doesn't come all the way out, it gets caught, but that's not a big deal. And what I mean is, hopefully you can see, the bolt won't come all the way out, it's getting caught on the bracket for the handbrake cable, but that's nothing to worry about. We can leave that there and we can take off this one. Now these are wind back calipers, so you can't push them back like I do in my normal videos. We have to wind them back with a special tool, so we'll do that and get it off. Now you can actually rock this off, or sometimes you might just need to get a screwdriver in and wedge it out, but we'll see if we can just rock this off first. As we can see, we can rock this one off, so that's not too bad. Just kind of leave that to the side. Can't really move it too far because it's got all the handbrake cables going on, but again we don't particularly need it out of the way as such. These were quite bad as well, but just get a little, all I've got is a little lever bar, tiny little lever bar. Just get in behind and just lever the pad out. That's one. Get in behind it again, and that's two. Now what we need to do is take off the carrier. Before we do that, as I always forget, if I forgot to do it again, we've got to take off the bolt that holds the disc up. Always forget to do this and I forgot again. Now, it is normally a bit easier to do this once the caliper's on, but not to worry. I'm just going to get some vice grips and wedge the disc, just so the disc can't move. So the vice grips now are wedged between the carrier, as you can see, so it can't move too far. T45 torque, and hopefully this should just, be released, which is good. If you take off the carrier before you do this, it's going to be even harder. It's the thing I always forget to do. Not every car has them, but some do. There it is. That basically takes the disc away from the hub. Now we can take off the carrier. So what we need to do is just move the caliper out of the way as best we can. Make sure we don't bend anything or put anything under any major pressure, and take off these two bolts here. They're 16mm. Now this is where it can get this is where it can get kind of awkward, because I haven't got a lot of room. The head of the ratchet won't fit in without getting an extension bar there. Let's hope this will give me enough room. It should do. Now that's going to slip. Right, this is not good. Let's try the top one first, which is a bit easier. Now, top one came off. So again, we need to loosen both of them before we take any out, but I can't get this one on fully. So let's try a bigger extension, so a longer extension, but this is called a wobbly extension. So a normal extension holds the socket nice and straight, where a wobbly extension, as you can see, you got that much movement, just gives you a bit more of an angle, and hopefully it's going to give me enough of an angle to make this work. Put that in, and now we'll try and get the socket on, which I can do. In the middle of the drop link. Oh, not on. Now let's see what happens now. No, this is rusty, this is not good. Very rusty bolt. Let's try a different style of a socket. Oh, there we go. Fuck for that. Yeah, we're okay now. Now we know they're both loose, I can use the air tools to do the rest for me. And two. Now this one is a good time when you've got the carrier in your hand to give it a good clean with the wire brush. Do everything before you put it back on, it's just so much easier. Also check to see that these fellas slide in and out, but like I show in all my videos, even if they do slide in and out, take them off, clean them, re-grease them, put them back in, and it just makes such a better job. Now the disc will just slide straight off, and there we go, one disc off. We're all back together now. Hopefully you can see this, all the oil that's kind of on it, so you want to give it a good clean, take all the oil off the disc before you put it on, line up the screw hole with it, so now you put that in the right place, and then another squirt again, take all the oil off. It just means you'll have brakes rather than having all the oil seep into the pads. It just stops the disc going rusty when they're in storage. Now we can just put this back on so we don't forget. I just kind of leave it hand tight. It's easier to tighten it once we've got everything back on. Now what I'm going to put back on is the carrier. Right, as you can see now, I've got copper grease. It's all been cleaned, and I've got copper grease where the actual pads will sit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this brake thing just out of the way again. It's the best you can really do with everything on it. And I'm going to put the two bolts that hold the caliper, or the carrier, in, should I say. So we'll show you from this angle this time. Another thing is, like I said, make sure you've cleaned these and re-greased these. It is important. On my other videos I've shown it. I've just done it off camera on this one. But on my other brake videos you'll see me doing it. It's the same on all cars. Now, so that's that back on. We'll just get the camera in on the other side again so you can see it a bit better. Screwed them in a long way by hand, and I'm just going to put it in most of the way with the air tools. This is not a powerful one, so it won't go all the way, it just gives me most of the way, just like that. Then I can use the bigger ratchet to do it by hand. It's always best to do these by hand, because with air tools you can break them. Now, that one's okay. Now, like I've said on a lot of my videos, this particular car, there's two types of pads. Only seems to be one type of disc, but two types of pads. So if you're doing it yourself, and once you've got the right pad, always make a note of it, write a number down, put it in your service book, so whenever you come to do them again, you're not basically struggling. Because what happens sometimes is if they give you the wrong part, you can have it all stripped, and then before you know it, you realise you've got the wrong bits, and you have to put it all back together and go to them, and it's a lot of hassle. So that's another good thing, is you don't just rip the box open when you get it, just in case you have the wrong parts. That's always a good tip. Now what we're ready to do is put the pads back in, and what I like to do is just put a bit of copper grease just on the two little wings first. I don't put anything in the middle, even though I've copper greased in here, which you don't really need to do that. I just kind of like it, and the reason why I don't put copper grease there, because as you can see, I'm holding this now and I'm holding the back of the pad. If we got any grease or anything on there, obviously it wouldn't work properly and it could cause you to crash. So that's why I don't put any grease in the middle until I have it in. So I put it in first. Once it's in, then you can put the grease on. It just saves getting grease everywhere where you don't particularly want it. So again, we'll put that one on, clip it in. Now we can put the grease on them. And that way your hands don't get covered, you don't get grease in the wrong part, and everyone's good. What we need to do now is we need to push back the actual caliper, the piston of the caliper. Now hopefully you can see that this is the piston, and there's two little cutouts on the piston. One's at the top and one's at the bottom. Now this one only has two. Some cars have three, some cars have four. It just depends on the make and model of your car. And the tool I'm going to be using, it's an air wind back tool. I'll be doing a video on these shortly. But to give you an idea, on my set, the one I have, if I can get that there, the light shine, number 7 is the tool, is the actual correct one for this car. So these two little legs that are sticking out, as you can see there, they line up with the two little legs, or the two little indentations on the caliper. And as you can see, there's two little nipples there too, which line up with the two in here. So all I've got to do is line that up. It can be quite tricky, and hopefully the camera will get this. Now I've lined up, hopefully the camera will get it. I press the trigger, which is put pressure on it. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to film this. Hopefully. And all I've got to do is turn the top of this, which should hopefully turn the piston back, which it is doing, but it's twisting the caliper, which, see, this is the problem with trying to film it and do this at the same time. So I'm again going to try, might have to get it in the way slightly because I have to hold the caliper to stop it from completely turning, but I'm turning this now, which, believe me, is pushing back the caliper. This one is quite hard, but it is going back. Now, depending on the car, some cars you can't wind it back anymore, it just stops. Some cars then it goes back all the way and it just keep winding and winding and winding. So you have to look down to see if it's actually going in anymore. If it's not going anymore, you know you've actually got it now. It doesn't look like it's going anymore to me. Release the air pressure. And as you can see, the piston is now all the way back. Sorted. Now what we should be able to do is just slot this back down. Line it all up. Little piece of metal. Brake is just caught on the caliper. Just going to flick that up. There we go. And there we go. We're in. Two little 30mm bolts that go on the back to hold the actual caliper in. Hand tight them both before you tighten anything. But as you can see, there's a bit of wiggle room, so you need to line them up by hand first. Don't get the spanners or anything on them, because you can easily cross thread these. You want to make sure they're definitely in like they are now, and now I can get the spanners on them. So hopefully you can see this. I'm just going to hand tighten them all now. You feel that nipping? Just go down to the bottom one. Do the same thing. You can tighten them all nice and evenly. Once they kind of grab, you don't need the second spanner. It'll hold itself. Make sure you don't slip off. That's one. And two. Now that's how you do it, simple as that. Obviously, like I always say, when you do one side, you have to do the other side regardless of the condition. We obviously have to do the other side because we've got a seized caliper and stuff. Now if you want to know how to put calipers on, I've done other videos on how to put calipers and stuff on. But yes, you have to do both sides regardless of condition. Even if only one side's gone, do both sides. It is very, very important. And after you've done one brake, go into the car, pump the brake pedal, because you can have no brake pedal. Do it after every single brake, because then if you do all your 4 brakes without pumping your brake pedal and you forget, you drive down the road, you're going to have no brakes at all. So it's important to pump your brake pedal after you've done each one. And that's really it. Then you just want to make sure nothing is seized, everything is turning around like it's supposed to, like this. You know, nothing's going to be hard, nothing's rubbing, because sometimes these stone guards here can get bent and they can rub against the disc and they sound horrible. You want to make sure nothing like that's got done. Check it and it's all fine. So look, hope it helps. Thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one.